Boom, boom, boom. We'll let everybody come into the stream here for just a second. It's not an error. It's not an aberration. You're not dreaming. You are ordering your Broncos 2024 schedule. Thomas Hall, what is up? I am pumped to be back. It's Wednesday night. Not only is it Wednesday night, Tom, but it is a special edition of MHI as we are reacting in real time to the 2024 Denver Broncos schedule slash menu.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just order whatever you like on the menu. But frankly, when I just quickly look at it, there's a few things I don't like about this menu that is out in front of me, including a bye week very, very late in the season. It's incredible.
Oh, so we're going to react to this menu. It's the straight out, hot off the press, hot off the X. Can we say that nowadays? Hot off the social media. The Denver Broncos have released their 2024 schedule. They've done so with a video of one of their owners, right? Sir Lewis Hamilton in the promotional video. As the video pans to the menu slash schedule, what is up, everybody? I am Luke Patterson. Joined with me as always, Thomas Hall and Scott Kennedy. Tom, here we go. 2024 schedule. Now, I was ready to react. I was pumped to get this news in real time. I don't know about this menu thing, man. Tell me what I'm looking at here.
It's hard to see, number one, and it's kind of weird. Because if you can order off the menu, you would think you'd get what you wanted, right? But it's I don't know. I'm not as big a fan as this release as the one with Peyton Manning. That was fun. So it's a little bit difficult to see and read, but we are going to react to it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, and check it out. Here's the thing. It's release night 2024. It's a new chapter, new threads, new quarterback, new everything. There's some new marketing going on by the team. It is what it is. I'm seeing some things that I do like, Tom, and we're going to hop right into it. The Pittsburgh Steelers home game against Russell Wilson in week 2. And nobody said I have to keep it under wraps, but everybody likes a tease. Stay tuned for some regular season, a huge week 2 announcement coming from MHH in the following months. Tom, what do we think? Russell Wilson's return in week 2 to the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson v. Bo Nix. That looks much better. Thank you, Scott Kennedy. Yeah. Something I can read, not an actual menu. This is coming from the Denver Broncos site, it looks like, where their schedule has been released. What are we thinking? Russell Wilson in the Mile High City, regular season, week number 2. We thought maybe this would be a primetime game.
Well, I mean, after the Broncos had so many primetime games last year and then kind of failed pretty miserably, in my opinion, to really meet those expectations, I wasn't surprised that they didn't have too many primetime games, nor did they, think that the Broncos are going to be a big draw for that first opening week by putting Russell Wilson and the Steelers coming in. But, home game opening, I mean, that's a pretty big deal for Broncos fans. Whether you liked Russell Wilson or you didn't like Russell Wilson, that's a pretty big draw. Game 2, first game at home, Russell Wilson returning with the Steelers, who, a well-coached team and, have a really solid defense usually. I think it's going to be, it's not one of those gimmies, even if you don't like Russell Wilson. It's not a gimme game for sure.
No, well, and here's another thing about the Steelers. As you well know, Steeler fans travel great. They're spread out all over the country. That damn terrible towel is out there and everywhere. And it certainly gets me riled up and mad. So I don't never like seeing other teams' apparel, but just looking on this list, the Steelers fans are showing up in force for a home game against the Broncos. Broncos home game, rather, as they bring Russell Wilson back and see what that looks like. You start looking at strength of schedule, right? I know the fellas talked about that last night on Tuesday's show. You start hearing about some of these leaks, Tom. What do we have, it looks like, here for primetime games? Broncos, are they in primetime action? Talk to me.
They're in 2 primetime games, actually. That's it. They have their regular Thursday night that everybody gets versus the Saints, which is a pretty big deal, right? You've got Shawn Payton, Saints going back to New Orleans. That's a pretty big deal, Thursday night football. And then you get a Monday nighter against the Browns late in the season, right before the bye week. And that's it, as far as I know. I don't think there's any Sunday night footballs on here. So two primetime games, and that's pretty much it.
Is that an indication of what the NFL thinks the Broncos are going to be in 2024, specifically Shawn Payton and Bo Nix's offense?
I think so. I mean, they were pretty hyped last year because Russell Wilson, Shawn Payton, it was supposed to all come together. They were supposed to have a pretty solid team. They fell kind of flat, and I think they're saying, you know what, we're not going to do that mistake again. Now, if the Broncos are good and they play really well, you might see some flexes into Sunday Night Football towards the end of the season. You might get a couple more primetime games, but I don't think the NFL is looking too highly on the draw for the Broncos, unfortunately, because they used to be a huge draw. I mean, they were always a huge draw for primetime games, and it's unfortunate that it's been 7 years since they've had a winning season, so it's unfortunate. But that's the way it goes. If you can't win, you're not going to get the primetime games.
Well, and there's the possibility, right, if they're doing well, that games can get flexed. But here's the thing. You've got this monster in Kansas City, the Taylor Swifties, and all this other madness that's going on over in Chiefs Kingdom, right? So that's hard to ignore. That's hard not to do business with. Right. And here's one of our guys. What's up, David? Papa Bear coming in here with a $5 super. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, and Deacon Scott. Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Bo knows, Knicks for 6. David, I love it, man. Some good enthusiasm for Bo Nix, who just finished up rookie mini camp. Tom, what you've had a few weeks. We've all had, I think, 2-3 weeks now to digest Bo Nix, first round draft pick of Shawn Payton and the Broncos here in 2024. Let me ask you a question. You're Bo Nix. You're a rookie. You just finished mini camp. The schedule is released. Maybe you're watching MHI. I don't know. You're looking at this schedule. What do you think as a rookie quarterback?
Well, I would say going on the road right away, like 3 out of the first 5, I think it looks like that's a pretty rough schedule right out of the gate for a rookie cornerback, especially going to Seattle. Now, I know Seattle isn't as formidable as they used to be, but that's a loud crowd right out of the gate. Rookie quarterback going and into that environment's going to be tough. It's and then 3 out of the 5 on the road. I don't know. I mean, obviously Bo Nix probably got plenty of confidence and everything, but from my perspective, that's a tough right out of the gate kind of schedule for him to jump in as a rookie quarterback if he's the starter, right? And we're all expecting that he is going to be that guy.
Well, that's just it. Shawn doesn't give anything away, just like our guy Michael Ronquillo doesn't give any of his support, loyalty ever away from this show or MHH. He is always there for us. Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Luke and Thomas on the Mile High Insiders, and go Broncos. We are reacting in real time to the Broncos 2024 schedule. Hot off the X. Just was released out there by the team on social media. Let us know what you guys think of it. They're doing all kinds of new promotional stuff. They did obviously a really cool I thought it was a cool video. I'm not a fan of the threads per se, but I thought it was a cool video for releasing the new uniforms. Sir Lewis Hamilton is in the next video. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but let us know what you think of it. It's a new chapter here in Broncos country, and we are reacting to the schedule. Here's where my mind goes, Tom, when I start looking at this, and obviously everybody looks for home games, and this is the fun part of the schedule release. A lot of people like to start counting your wins and losses. That's going to be really tough for us to do here in Broncos country. We don't know who the starting quarterback is yet. I feel it should be Bo Nix. You drafted him for a reason. Time waits for no one. Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham. Let's go with Bo Nix and see how that goes for a while. 11 a.m. games have not been a friend to the Denver Broncos, nor have East Coast games, Tom. And I got to be honest, I'm feeling pretty good, right? You got the Jets here in week 4. Looks like an away game, September 29th at 11 a.m. Mountain. And then what do you got? The Ravens in week 9, another away game. So Jets we're feeling pretty good about with the garbage fire that is Nathaniel Hackett and the reports coming out there. And then the Ravens, that's going to be tough. Well, Denver's always had a tough time with Baltimore on the road at home.
Well, the Jets aren't going to be a cakewalk unless they have a major injury like they had last year. And I'll remind you, the Jets came in with Zach Wilson to Denver and beat them. So
Denver Broncos
Jets,
quarterback, Zach Wilson.
For some reason, the Jets have been tough at times for the Broncos. And if Rodgers is playing and that may not be a cakewalk that we're all talking about. Definitely the Baltimore Ravens are no cakewalk, but the one that draws my attention right away, October 6th, if I'm reading that right, the Raiders. I almost called them Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders. They have got to get the monkey off of their back. They're going to have them at home, and they have got to come away with a win there. to really, like change their fortune, so to speak, because losing in the division, as you know, is a death knell for any hopes they have for the playoffs, and they haven't been able to take care of business. They've got to take care of business in week 5.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at the strength of schedule and then you see the schedule release. And I'm seeing it in the chat right now. And I hear you guys. It's going to be a tough season, I think. This is a tough schedule. I know we can look at the calculators. The fellows talked about it last night on BTB, but this is going to be tough, especially when I'm looking at the Chiefs. Week 10 and week 18, it's a little more spaced out than it has been the
Yeah.
last couple of years. So that's nice. These divisional games are pretty close to each other, though. You're talking October 6th, week 5, a home game against the Raiders. Then they turn around right away, another home game against the Chargers. You have to win your home games. It's simple as that, man. I mean, this schedule does no favors for the Broncos, in my opinion. You brought it up right away. Looking at it just like a player would look at it, a veteran player, maybe a rookie, I don't know, but definitely the veterans, the bye week, Tom, week 14.
Awful.
Would players be a little grouchy about a week 14 bye? What's the concern?
Well, I mean, you've got the slog through the whole season. People are injured, and then, you're almost done you got 4 games left in the season. You can't really recover. You have got to do all of your work early before the injuries start to really take hold. And you've got a young team here who's got to they have to, figure out the Shawn Payton offense. They got to figure out how to win. And having that late bye week is tough. Now, I think the Broncos are a little bit younger than they have been. Possibly, I haven't looked at the numbers. So, the older, more veteran teams that have older players probably are, in my mind, affected more with a later bye because their bodies are harder to recover from. But still, week 14, that's a tough bye week for any team. And the Broncos that they got, that's kind of the shaft, so to speak, for bye weeks of every team in the NFL, in my opinion. The late bye.
I've got a silver lining for a bye. I just came up with it as you were explaining all the reasons, and I agree with you why a bye week being in week 14 would be concerning for a fan base and for the veteran players. Here's the silver lining. You ready? The Broncos don't have to wait till week 14 to start Bo Nix. They could start him game 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. I know. We love to talk about first-round quarterbacks. In theory, it's the oldest theory out there. It's just kicking the can down the road. Maybe he'll start after the bye. Not in this scenario. If Bo Nix is waiting to start till week 14, something went wrong or he was injured. That's where we're at. I think that this schedule suggests Bo Nix should be competing for a starting position if he hasn't started already. I know they're getting ready to get the mini camp together, right? Rookie mini camp just finished up. They're in the process of workouts, all that sort of stuff. But I'm talking week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. Here's where I have some concerns. It's not necessarily with the offense yet. It's with Geno Smith against Vance Joseph's defense because it's Vance Joseph. Has nothing to do with Geno Smith. But Broncos fans remember that letdown. Russ coming back to Seattle. He's going to show them, right? And I was one of those guys. He's going to show them. And what a disaster. Little did we know what was going to become of Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. But talk to me about that first game in Seattle. We went over the how hard it is to win. Those fans are crazy, the 12th man, all that. But when you're looking at Geno Smith and what he did to the Broncos defense then, what do you think he could do to him now?
Well, I'm not as big a fan of Geno Smith at all, really. I mean, he can't, he kind of came around that one year, and then last year wasn't as good. I'm not afraid of Geno Smith, but it is tough to win in Seattle. And the Broncos, even when they were good, had a hard time sometimes winning in Seattle. Not in the olden days. They seemed to do fine in the old days, but when the Broncos or the Seahawks actually had a pretty good team and won the Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl, it wasn't as easy winning in Seattle, and it still isn't. I mean, going on the road is tough, no matter what, but that's a tough crowd. Especially for a rookie quarterback who, like I keep saying, if you watch the Oregon games, they had coaches holding up the coverage, right? Like the communication isn't going to be easy. That's going to be a tough one going right out of the gate. But they also have, I believe they have a new defensive coordinator that's pretty in Seattle. That's pretty well thought of. I'm just going to say Seattle to me is an enigma right now with all the changes. but they're usually a pretty solid team at home. I think it's tough for a rookie quarterback to expect him to go in there and perform well in that environment, no matter how good that quarterback is, right? First round draft choice, number 1 or number 12, whatever it may be. It's going to be a tough environment to go in there.
I completely agree. Seattle's it's it's not necessarily the team, but it's the environment. It's all the factors put together into one synoptic, hopefully successful episode for the Denver Broncos to start the year. And then you welcome Russ and the Steelers in week 2. We started the show, and primetime was one of my first questions as well. How many primetime games do the Broncos have? Historically, they've had their share over the years, not recently with all that losing. But you mentioned it. Week 7, Saints away game, Amazon Prime. I can't stand watching them on Amazon Prime, Tom. I really can't. So that doesn't bother me. Here's another potential primetime matchup or two. I'm looking at week 17 and week 18. You know why? Because they're to be determined in terms of when the game will be. Perhaps a Bengals matchup on the road in week 17, or a final home game if the Broncos are contending for the Chiefs in the AFC West to wrap it up in week 18. Phil McLaughlin coming in. Good evening, Thomas, Luke, and Scott. Going to start with the Colts on August 11th. Preseason. Going to be great to see the rookies showing their stuff. The bye week sucks. Buckham and MHH for life. Yeah, Phil, how could we do it? How could we forget the preseason, Tom? That's really, a lot closer. Here's the thing. It was nice to see some players have preseason action last year. Shawn Payton believed in that. Nathaniel Hackett did not. And we were able to react in real time to Jarrett Stidham lighting up the scoreboard against the 3rd and 4th string guys that don't play in the league. That's going to be pivotal for a Bo Nix. That's going to be pivotal for this team, who are young, inexperienced. They haven't played together. Talk to me about the preseason.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind always is like they used to play so many preseason games back in the day. Like it was incredible how many preseason games they used to play, and they keep reducing them. And the talk is to get down to 2 preseason games.
That'd be great.
It would be great, but you're not going to. I think it's pivotal for some of these players. The thing that I like about preseason, for the most part, it's not necessarily seeing the starters out there doing well or whatever. There's a lot of young guys that are trying to make the team that can make an impression, which I really enjoy watching. I love watching the 3rd and 4th quarters of preseason games because these guys are out there, trying their hardest to make it. But with a young team, for the most part, you got some young players on it, especially at the quarterback position. I think Bo Nix is if he's going to be the starter, should play a lot more than expected of the starting quarterback, just because he needs that experience going into week 1. So I think you'll see a little bit more than you would expect if he wins the starting job. And we're expecting him to, but I'm saying if, because who knows, maybe he can't.
So preseason game number 1 is on the road. The Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos will square off. And then the last 2 preseason games will be here in Denver. The Broncos host the Green Bay Packers, preseason game number 2. And then the preseason finale here in the Mile High City will take place against the Arizona Cardinals. Exciting stuff when we're looking at the preseason. And obviously we are reacting here on MHI to the Denver Broncos schedule release that happened at the top of the hour, right? When we were getting ready to come
Real
on
time,
air.
baby.
Yeah, and I want to open it up a little bit. We've been talking about the schedule. I want to hear from Broncos country. I see a lot of, this is going to be tough. The bye week is absolutely brutal, sitting in week 14. I'm going to ask you this. I asked what you would think if you're a player about the schedule. You're Shawn Payton, the head coach of this football team. What does the schedule release tell you need to do with Bo Nix today that you weren't doing yesterday?
Man, you better get him ready, man. All I'm saying is you better have him ready to roll. If he's going to be your guy, if you're Shawn Payton and you're saying I'm putting all my chips in the Bo Nix basket or eggs or whatever you want to say, you had better have him ready to play week 1, because it's not a home game. It's in a tough crowd. Now, Seattle hasn't been as imposing as they were, in the early part of the 2010s or whatever, but they've been a solid team, not great, but a solid team. And the Broncos were supposed to go in there week 1, 2 years ago and beat up on him. We all thought that, and it didn't happen. So he better have Bo Nix ready to go. Like, he better have him dialed in. And if he doesn't think that can happen, then you better be starting Stidham and getting him ready to go for the first few games to get Bo Nix in there. But yeah, it's not. And then you got the Steelers at home, which the Steelers are no joke, man. They're a well-coached team. Even though their roster may not be always great, they have not had a losing season.
They have Russell Wilson now, Tom. Have you forgotten?
It doesn't matter. I mean, they were rolling out nobody last year, and they still went to the playoffs.
Here's the thing. You can't, if you're Shawn Payton, in any shape, form, fashion, philosophy, whatever, you can't start Jarrett Stidham against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home.
No,
in week 2. You can't do it. The fan base would absolutely turn on him if they haven't already done so already, right? I don't think the owners would like that. It wouldn't be a very good look. I mean, that's the time. That should be, dare I say, a signature win for a rookie in his second regular season game. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen, and I'm hoping maybe he's CJ Stroud-esque. I know that's a big ask. They're two stylistically very different quarterbacks. But the internal processor on both of these guys, if it is what we think it is with Bo Nix, like it's CJ Stroud, we have a pretty good idea with CJ Stroud. Man, I think the Broncos are in good shape. I'm not down there. I'm not going to pretend like I am, but I'm hearing whispers that this kid is very smart, work ethic. I know. We've heard this about other quarterbacks, all 17 of them that have come through the Mile High City the last 10 years. But so far, so good, I think, with Bo Nix coming out of rookie minicamp.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm hearing, he's seems to be playing well. He seems to be picking up the offense and doing what it takes, and that's the big difference between a lot of these players who don't make it and a lot of players that do. They put in the work, and they're already talented. I mean, if you're getting drafted, you're a talented player, but you've got to do that extra step to be able to succeed in the NFL, and that is one of them is putting in the work. And it sounds like that's what he's doing. Sounds like he's been pretty crisp in rookie camp.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's camp, right? Like we can all get excited, and Bo Nix is the the second coming or whatever. But it is at least makes me feel better about going into week 1 with a rookie quarterback starting, as opposed to looking at what Paxton Lynch was doing back in the day. You know what I mean? Like it should be a stark difference is what I'm saying.
Yeah, look, if things were going wrong over there, they have a pretty good lid on things, but you would hear little leaks, just like we've had schedule leaks and all those sorts of things, right? So far so good. I'm not throwing a parade because Bo Nix showed up to rookie minicamp and did okay, right? Like, and I don't mean okay facetiously. I wasn't there. I heard he did well, but nobody really cares how well he did in rookie minicamp. That's the expectation when you're a first-round draft pick here in Denver. String guy coming in here. Luke, do you see a true quarterback competition in the preseason? I do. I really do. Call me crazy. Call me a Shawn Payton fan if you must. I don't think Shawn wants to give this guy anything. I think Shawn wants to see Bo Nix go out there and take it. Go out there and earn it. There could only be one alpha dog on that field at the end of the day on the offense, and it's the quarterback. The Broncos haven't had that since the sheriff. And that's been the problem. Bo Nix has to be that. I'm not saying he needs to be the rah-rah guy, Tim Tebow thing in the locker room at the halftime speech every game. No, but you need to go out there and prove to these guys why you were worthy of this first-round pick. You need to make them believe. You need all the cliches, all the movies, Varsity Blues, The Replacements, any movie that you've ever seen, the star quarterback, that needs to be Bo Nix. It starts in the preseason. It starts in camp. Hell, it started last week in minicamp.
I'm just going to say he doesn't have a significant amount of competition in order to win this job. Now, I know they paid a lot of money to get Stidham as the backup, and Shawn Payton likes him. But if you look at this on paper, you got Zach Wilson, bust of a first-round draft choice, a lot of potential, but he loves to throw the ball to somebody else on the other team. And you got Jarrett Stidham. I mean, his competition isn't insurmountable. It's not like a rookie coming in to an established starter who's like on his last couple of years and just trying to get those milk out those last couple of years. And this is a wide open competition. If Bo Nix is even close to being as good as Stidham or Wilson, he will get the start. Now, I'm not saying he has to beat them out. He just has to be at least close to as good, because they want to get him on the field. They want to give it to him. And, they know what they got in Stidham and Wilson. They're not going to give it to them unless Bo Nix just cannot beat them out.
Scott's in my ear, and I like how he puts it. Competition, yes, but it's Bo Nix's to lose.
Exactly.
And that's the expectation, really. At the end of the day, when you boil it down, that's exactly right. If Bo Nix isn't the starter, then we're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And the Broncos are in trouble, and we continue those troubles. That's not supposed to happen, right? New uniforms, new chapter, new QB, all that, all these expectations. It's time to go. And we are reacting to the Broncos 2024 schedule. Here it is. And Donnie firing out there. I'm going to be there in week 1. Broncos country, let us know. Which games are you wanting to go to? Which games are you going to see? Thomas, it's crazy out there. It's not the cheapest economy these days here in the good US of A, let alone the world in general. People work their tails off. They spend their hard-earned dough at these Broncos games for their families, their friends, concessions. You know how it goes. If you're a paying customer, which game do you want to see? Let us know in the chat. We will give you a shout out. Phil McLaughlin coming in here. Oh, man. Phil's already firing his shot. This is a little tradition everybody likes to do. I don't care who you are. Even the guy that says they won't do it, we still do it. We may not talk about it, though. Going to be 7-10 this year. So Phil went through the schedule, marked his 7 wins, and the Broncos 10 losses. That would be another losing season, as Phil well knows. That's going to be tough. We've been talking about it being a tough season, all off season, regardless of the draft. But a first-round quarterback, it gives you hope. It breathes hopefully life into the organization, but right away it brings curiosity and excitement to the fan base and to the players.
Well, when I'm looking at that, 7-10 to me would be a pretty decent year when you think about tearing it down and kind of starting over. And when you look at the schedule, I mean, usually there's I know things can change when you look at the schedule and then actually happens on the field. There are no gimmies, but the only gimme that I really see is the Carolina Panthers. That's the only one that I'm like, okay, Carolina Panthers in Denver seems like a gimme. But the rest of them, except for maybe the Falcons, are not gimmies. So they're all going to be tough games to win.
Ejiro Evero's return, Josie Jewell's return. I mean, I don't know, man. Call me crazy.
Maybe
things happen.
They're not a very good team, is what I'm saying. Last year they were very good. I don't think they're going to be very good this year coming up. But the rest of them, they seem, going to the Saints aren't a great team, but you go to the Saints in New Orleans. Some of the games just don't seem like gimmies to me.
No, you're exactly right. Even the Falcons game, man. I think the Falcons give Broncos a run for their money. And then you start looking at, as we evaluate the schedule here, I mean, the Broncos have been dog squat the last how many years? Who are we to start penciling wins in? We all do it, right? But it's harder and harder every year to try to figure out where those wins will be. I had them in the postseason with 10 wins last season, I think was my prediction. I'd have to go back and look at Luke Patterson LP. But it's just one of these things, man, where it's tough. And we look at the schedule. And one thing I like to do, Tom, is also look at the broadcast team, because I have broadcast favorites and then I have broadcasters I can't stand. I understand that they're doing shakeups too, right? They're always shaking up different partners. Tom Brady, right, is going to be calling his first NFL game for Fox. He'll be on the Fox crew. I don't know how many Broncos games they're going to give Tommy Boy in that number 1 slot this year. But who are some of your favorite broadcasters as you like to watch on Sundays, Thursdays, or Mondays?
Yeah, I liked Greg Olson. I thought he was pretty good. And he got bumped for Tom Brady. Obviously, the Tom Brady's the big name. I really enjoyed, and I know some people do not like Mark Schlereth. I actually enjoy him. I don't know.
Yeah. Stinks the man.
But I'll tell you this. I typically turn the sound down very low so I don't have to hear them. So I don't get all the broadcast, because I get so I don't know. I get so
Get
tired
upset.
of some of them. I can't
Me too.
stand them. So
I
turn it
Tony
down.
Romo right here. I can't stand him. I can't stand Tony freaking Romo. It's just I don't like him. I never have. I didn't like him when he was Dallas. It's not really like anything specific. I hate that he just calls the play out before it happens. You know, like not all of us are NFL quarterbacks. You know,
Right.
Tony, like I don't get me wrong. I watch the games, I chart the games. I still am trying to learn so much about it. And then Tony goes out there and just gives spoilers right before it's going to happen. And it's usually with the Chiefs to the Broncos at the Broncos' expense. Phil coming in here. Thank you so much for coming back, Phil. Looking at home games only. What do you project the Broncos Denver record? Well, let's go through it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the good guys a win in week 2 against Russell Wilson and the Steelers. If you don't think Shawn Payton is going to have that team, specifically, I know, Vance Joseph's defense, I know, he's going to have them fired up. He's going to have them foaming at the mouth. You don't think some of those guys want to take a crack at Russell Wilson, assuming Russ is the starter, which he probably will be? Is Justin Fields going to be returning punts? It's going to be crazy. I do give the guys a win at home there. So there's one. The Chargers, it's always so tough with Justin Herbert. What's he going to look like under Harbaugh? Let's give him an L there. I think right there.
You missed the Raiders.
I missed the Raiders. Well, I haven't beaten the Raiders, right? Ending the streak. So we're 2-1. Moving on from the Chargers, who I have them losing to. Panthers, I'm with you. Let's give them the win at 3-1. Falcons, I smell an upset. I don't know why I do, Tom, but I smell an upset. Let's go 3-2. Browns, give them a win. Surprise upset for the Broncos. How about that? 4-2. Colts, let's give them a 5-2. And then the Chiefs. Pat Mahomes, God willing, will be benched that game. So let's go with a 6-2 home record. Would that be right?
You are optimistic for 6-2 at home, only because they have not taken care of business at home.
They got better last year with Shawn Payton. They had a 500 home record, right?
I remember them going like they barely lost at home. People have forgotten what the Broncos used to be like at home, where it was almost a guaranteed win, no matter how bad they were.
All right, then call your shot, Chatty Cathy. Give me your wins and losses with your home games.
I don't care about Russell Wilson. For me, the Steelers usually have a pretty good running game and a decent defense. The Broncos are terrible stopping the run, or they were last year. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat the Steelers at home with a better, with a well-coached team, solid defensive play. So they're going to lose at the Steelers. They're going to beat the Raiders, finally get the monkey off their backs. They're going to be 1-1. They're going to beat the Chargers just because they tend to beat the Chargers no matter what. And like I said, I was a Jim Harbaugh guy, but now I hate him because he's, coaching the Chargers. So I think they're going to be, by the time they hit the Panthers, they're going to be 2-2 at home. And then they have the Falcons at home. Kirk Cousins, I don't know, man. That the Falcons aren't that great.
He's going to be hurt by then.
Adds a little more element, but I think they get a win. I think they get a win. So they're 3-2 there. And then versus the Browns, they seem to have the Browns number. Even though the Browns seem to be better. I remember when the Browns were better in 1986, but they still lost to the Broncos in the AFC Championship game. So I'll give them a win there. The Colts are a well-coached team, better teams. They get a loss there, and then they beat the Chiefs in the final week of the season because, they beat them. They got to beat them once at least.
Oh, the Chiefs. Yeah, it's going to be weird. Last game of the season. They've done this before with the Chiefs. I feel like a lot lately in the past 5 or 10 years, ever since the Broncos weren't dominating the Chiefs. Remember when that used to happen? I mean, like every single year. It's insane. And what's also insane? The chat is going right now. Look at our guy DVA. I think he's being ornery in there. And I absolutely love it.
I haven't seen it.
It looks like I don't know if we're having a quarterback debate or what. It's going to be interesting though when we look at the schedule as it relates to Bo Nix. And Michael Ronquillo had a comment, and I absolutely loved it, talking about Shawn Payton's legacy, right? Well, Bo Nix is very much a part of that legacy.
Yeah.
And is it going to be a good part, or is it going to be a dark chapter? We will see. David Yonke coming in here with some love. VJ calling the defense in any game is hard to win. I mean, you're right, David. Like, maybe Najee Harris is going to come in here and, look like the second coming of Floyd Little against Vance Joseph's defense. It's that could happen, I suppose.
I have no faith in Vance Joseph. I just have no faith in him. We have seen him for a couple of years now in Broncos country. How anybody has any faith in Vance Joseph's ability to set up players to succeed, it boggles my mind.
Yeah, he's not my pick. He's not your pick. We're surprised that he was asked back. I mean, it's almost like, Shawn, what are we thinking here? Are our heels just so dug in that we can't figure out another direction? I mean, I don't know. Maybe Vance Joseph comes out this year and he's this whiz that we haven't seen. His run defense is what, if you don't have a run defense, you are just opening yourself up for misery and for failure. And that's exactly what David's seeing. He's tired of seeing it too. Give me a positive if you're Shawn Payton on Vance Joseph. Why do you keep him? I'm making you keep him, Tom.
All right. The talk is he's really good in practice, like setting up people, teaching them how to play the game. So young players who need to kind of learn a little bit, or even older players that need a couple tweaks to their game, can be, getting that advice from him and getting better. So that's the positive. That's what it's always been. He's really good at making people better technically wise, so to speak. So
I would agree with that. He's praised positionally, specifically in the secondary, by Pro Bowlers and all pros alike. And that's very interesting. I think he also on a human element. I don't know Vance Joseph. I know people that are around the team, and I hear whispers from friends, but he's a nurturer, I think, when he needs to be in multiple different ways, and guys respect that and they have a loyalty to that. So that's hard to find, and that's hard to get buy-in too, especially from players. If you're not genuine as a human being in this world, it's very easy to tell. And if you're ingenuine, you're not going to get a team, let alone a defensive unit or even special teams, to buy in. So obviously Shawn Payton sees something that we don't, but as we go through the schedule, there's tons of reason for concern for this Broncos defense. We're talking about the quarterback, right? Bo Nix. It's all about Bo, baby. Well, there are some other holes, right? And some of those holes exist on the defense. And when you start looking at this, I know our head right away goes to Bo Nix. How is Bo Nix going to beat these teams? Well, you also have to look at some of these teams and who their quarterbacks are. Remember, there was a time when we could scoff at Baker Mayfield. I'm looking at that week 3 away game, Denver Broncos on the road, an early East Coast game. I know it's in Tampa, but it's one of those games now where Baker's been playing well, and he played himself into a contract. That's not a gimme game. Week 3 on the road against the Tampa Bay Bucks. This is going to have that game specifically, a Bo Nix versus a Baker Mayfield. I mean, that's going to be a tough matchup against a very good defensive head coach in Tampa.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, when I looked at it at first, I was like, yeah, Tampa's not that great of a team, but they were in the playoffs and won a playoff game last year. Yep. That's, like I said, there is no gimmies in the NFL. There never is. Like we saw last year with the Broncos, they went on that run and they won against teams they shouldn't have beat, and they did. But when I look at Tampa Bay, it's not a gimme. It's at Tampa Bay, and you're right. They've got a solid team, and Baker Mayfield, if he plays even close to what he was playing last year, that's going to be a fairly solid team. It's a tough one, man. This schedule is going to come out, I think, when you look at it at the end of the year, it's going to be a lot tougher strength of schedule wise than what it is when you look at it on paper now.
Well, let's look at the playoffs real quick as David comes in here. It's 12-5. Hashtag Shawn and Nick's successful. That would be awesome. Phenomenal, David. I absolutely love it. And David, get back at us, man. I want to know who you have the 5 losses on this being against, because that is a very generous prediction. I hope that would be great, man. Maybe David sees something that we don't see. Like, how great would that? It is a possibility. I know we could laugh at it. We could scoff at it, roll our eyes, but this is where we're at on Wednesday, May 15th. On the schedule of release day. These are the conversations we're supposed to be having. We reserve the right to change our minds, and it's really fun to do the schedule, not the schedule, but predict a record rather after training camp when you know what the team is and it's pretty finalized. Then it's really a license, if you will, to put some stone into that prediction as David does. Man, 12-5. I look at this schedule and it's hard for me to get to double digit wins. I really, really want to, but let's go through playoff teams real quick, Tom. Pittsburgh Steelers, right? They clinched a playoff spot last year. Playoff team. You just talked about it. The Chargers, how far away are they? We're not sure, but let's just go playoff teams. Pittsburgh Steelers, week 2. New Orleans Saints, no. Carolina Panthers, no. Baltimore Ravens in week 9, another AFC North divisional opponent. It's that damn year, the AFC North here in 2024. There's another one of those playoff teams. These AFC North teams, as you know, are these obstacles in the Broncos' way because they're so good. 3 out of the 4 teams, and now it almost feels like all four are vying for playoff spots, and that makes it tough for a Broncos team to try to sneak into the wild card. You've got Pittsburgh and Baltimore as playoff teams from last year, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. So you've got 4 games against 3 playoff teams, potentially the Browns, and then the Bengals could be in that conversation too. So you have potentially 5 to 6 teams in 7 games that played in the postseason last year or are expected to be in postseason contention. That does no favors for a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and the Bengals were, they were without Joe Burrow. I mean, they had Browning as their quarterback. So, with Joe Burrow, if he can stay healthy, I don't want anybody to get injured. So say he makes it the whole season. That's Joe Burrow-led Bengals team. That's a little tougher than it was if you think about going and playing, a Browning-led Bengals team. So you got 2 games with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're a playoff team. Bengals, Browns, Ravens, Steelers, Bucks. And then, who knows who comes out of top in the NFC South between the Falcons, Saints, Panthers, and all those, who knows who actually comes out there, but it's not an easy schedule by any means. I don't, on paper, it's not something that you can just be like, yeah, you got 4 easy wins there, 3 easy wins. You just don't.
That's exactly it. We can't scoff about it here in Broncos country, but Scott brings up a good point. And he's like, well, everyone else is scoffing it at us, at you guys, orange and blue Broncos country, when they see the Broncos on the schedule. Seattle Seahawks fans have to be foaming at the mouth, right, to see the Broncos coming in week 1. Seattle's one of those teams, man. They just have Denver's number, and it drives me nuts, Tom. I'll be honest with you. I can't stand the Seahawks. I can't stand the Seahawks fans. There's nothing I like about them. But there's not a lot I can say about them either. You know what I mean? They've been the Broncos daddy as of late. And will that change? But that's where my head goes right away. You mentioned it at the top of the show. The Raiders, are we going to, we being the Broncos country, are we finally going to be able to lift that boulder that has been the Raiders' dominance, the streak? I'm tired of talking about streaks here in Broncos country. They snapped it against the Chiefs last year. Big deal. What are you going to do about it now? You look at some of these fan bases and some of these games, man, and there's going to be a lot to it. There's going to be a lot on the line. I mean, Harbaugh's in the AFC West now, right? You got another one of those guys back in the NFL, one of those brothers. And what are the Chargers going to look like? Justin Herbert. I mean, Lamar Jackson, from all reports, is looking great like he always is. He shed some weight. The Baltimore Ravens absolutely kill the Broncos as of late. It's tough, Tom. It's tough to go through, but I can see Scott's point. When you flip the coin and you're these other fan bases of these other teams reacting to your respective 2024 schedule, you got to be feeling pretty good about the Denver Broncos, whether that's a home game or on the road.
Well, I just like to talk about the Chargers. From my opinion, or from my perspective, thinking about what Jim Harbaugh has done with the teams he's coached, they're not going to do the Charger thing and kill themselves. So the Broncos are going to have to beat the Chargers finally, right? Like they have to actually beat them. So I think they're going to be a tough team. Whether they're talented enough or not is a different story, but they're going to be well coached. And so they're going to have to go out and beat them. But yeah, you're right. I mean, let's face facts, man. no matter how excited you are about the Broncos, and I've been excited, I've been optimistic about the Broncos when, Vance Joseph, then Fangio, I've been excited, and that excitement goes away. That optimism goes right away, right? They have losing seasons, 7 consecutive seasons. Now, if you want to be optimistic, fine, you can be. But the fact of the matter is we've been optimistic and they have not been very good. And this roster has not improved that much. If the rookie class is better than expected, then I will take that back. But from when you look at it, you look at the veterans that they've replaced or have moved on, this roster is not any better than it was last year, significantly. So from my perspective, it's going to have to be a massive coach. Shawn Payton is going to have to really earn his paycheck if this Broncos team is going to make a run at the playoffs. And that's just me being, honest and looking non-optimistic about the Broncos' chances this year and just looking at it on paper and saying, is this team really that better than they were last year?
Yes, because they don't have Russell Wilson on the roster. Like,
right.
Seriously, that guy is poison. He's horrible on the field right now. Like, he just so fine, give me that. Now, just because he's out of the building doesn't necessarily make them the best team in the world. It doesn't chalk up to wins. You're exactly right. There are a lot of holes. We just talked about concerns on the defense. We haven't even gotten into the offensive line yet, Tom. You're right. There are a lot of holes there, but I see a lot of reasons for optimism as well. And look, man, crazier things have happened. There's this little thing called Mile High Magic, and maybe some Mile High Magic comes back to these home games this year. I'm not talking about Mile High Magic as in a novelty. Broncos are going to go 17-0. Yay. No, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about maybe we see something from a rookie quarterback. Maybe we see a connection and a bond between Shawn Payton start to grow. Maybe it doesn't happen in week 2. I want it to. I want to be rocking and rolling by then, but we're going to see these guys stumble too, Tom. I think that's your point as well. Like, as excited as we can get about this schedule, maybe we should brace ourselves for some tough games also. And we're ignoring the elephant in the room right now because we don't want to talk about it, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs. What is anything different going to change in the AFC West? I mean, really, we can talk about this schedule until we're blue in the face. We can talk about the Raiders even and the unbeaten streak and all that sort of stuff, but this is the Chiefs' division to lose right now. No one has contended in the AFC West for years. It's not even when you see, is there something wrong with Pat Mahomes? Is it Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift? They all tend to figure it out, and they're Super Bowl champs, all right? We've seen that show. We've been there. We've done that. What are the Broncos willing to do about the division this year? That's what we need to focus on, I think, here on this show and Broncos country in general. The AFC West. You want to do well, you want to get to the postseason, it starts in your own division, Tom.
That's right. They can't lose to the KFC Chiefs if they expect to do anything this year. They can't. They have to split it with the Chiefs. But you're right. The Chiefs have a better roster. There's no arguing with it. They are a better team. If you're being honest with yourself without seeing the rookies play and projecting what the rookies could possibly do, because they could all be terrible, they could all be great. We don't know yet. We haven't seen them play. The only position on this team that has improved, the only position group, is cornerback. That's it. They got a better cornerback opposite Patrick Surtain. The rest are either a wash or have gone down. Now, if the rookies are better, say the rookies are better, okay, then we have a different conversation. But from my perspective, when you haven't seen what a rookie can do, that's the only position that you can say the veterans have improved. Defensive line hasn't improved. Inside linebacker hasn't improved. Safety's got worse. Offensive line has got worse. Wide receivers about the same, maybe a tiny bit better with the guy from Detroit that came in versus Judy, who, we've talked about here.
Josh Reynolds.
Right? Like, I mean, if you're going to be honest with yourself and you really want to evaluate this team, honestly, without projecting what the rookies could possibly do, this team has not gotten better at any position group except cornerback. And that's the problem. When you look at the Chiefs have gotten better, from my opinion, from the moves they have made already. They're already a better team than they were last year.
Tom, here's the thing. We didn't foresee a win streak, or what was it, a 5-game winning streak last year with the Denver Broncos and Russell. We didn't foresee that happening. I mean, what aren't we foreseeing here? What if there is some positive in there? You're right. Yeah, I can't push back against the free agency. I can't push back, rookies aside. And Scott brings up another point too. I mean, the Broncos didn't have a ton of picks compared to some of these other teams. So less darts, right? And I know you've got to have roster limits, and we see some of those roster Olympics. Oh, by the way, we have a new punter, Tom. At least a punting competition is on here in the Mile High City. Yeah, you can read all about it over at milehighhuddle.com. The Broncos signed former Chicago Bears punter Trenton Gill. He's going to be punting alongside with the incumbent. I can't even think of our punter, Riley Dixon right now. Yeah, Riley Dixon. So Riley Dixon, Trenton Gill. It makes me wonder. I haven't read about it yet. You can read about it at milehighhuddle.com if Trenton Gill is a lefty, because Shawn Payton likes to throw curveballs, literal curveballs at these guys in training camp. I don't know how many lefty punters there are in the league right now, but the ball spins different. Maybe he wants to see what he can get out of his return guys. I don't know. Maybe he wants legit competition against Riley Dixon. I don't know the contract situation. But maybe that was a roster improvement, Tom. Maybe you missed that one in your little.
Sorry, I forgot about special teams.
in your little spiel against me. No, but you're exactly right. I mean, we can be excited, but we should be cautiously optimistic at best. And I was going to get ready to say, all right, Tom, fine. Let me pin you down to a record, and too early to predict record right now. Let me change that up. How about this? Best case scenario for you this year, Tom. You maybe teased it a little earlier with one of our friends in the chat. A best case scenario for you with this schedule.
If the rookies can actually perform, if Bo Nix is the real deal and they have one other rookie that kind of pops, my best case scenario is that they actually go 10-7 and they make the playoffs.
Wow.
And that is putting a lot of
Troy Franklin.
That these rookies can like jump ahead. And that's my best case scenario. 10-7. Bo Nix is the real deal. And then their edge rusher they picked or somebody else is like way better than we all expected. And then I think they can do something. But otherwise it's, not a great improvement on last year.
I see Todd Ostendorf in there causing trouble. I love it, Todd. Keep it up, man. You and DVA, everybody else. Get Henry in that chat. I mean, keep it right, act right. But Todd's like, Thomas is a Shawn Payton hater. Todd, I couldn't disagree with you more. He's got his issues with Shawn. We all know that. But I just asked him best case scenario for the Denver Broncos in 2024. Thomas Hall surprised me with his answer at 10-7. That would be, holy cow, that would be amazing. And Phil McLaughlin coming back in. Don't know if this has ever happened, but the Broncos go 6-0 in the West, 7-10 overall, and make the playoffs. Man, sweep the division. You want to talk about goals, man. That would check a lot of boxes, right? And I think that would mean that the Broncos have had outlandish success that none of us saw coming.
They've swept the division before. I mean, back when they were good. See, this is the thing. Like, people are.
When was that, Tom?
I'm a hater, but I've been watching the Broncos for 40 years. I remember when it was a given that they were a win, and I remember being optimistic when Vance Joseph came on, when Vic Fangio came on. The optimism fades really quickly, and I'm just tired of the losing, and I'm tired of being optimistic until they can prove me otherwise. Because right now, this roster makeup isn't any better than it was last year, unless the rookies really come on. That's just the fact of the matter. So I'm sorry that I'm not super optimistic about a team that has gone 7 straight years without a winning season, without somebody that they've gotten that is like a proven winner, other than rookies who haven't proven jack squat. So if I'm offending people in the chat, I'm sorry, but let's be a little realistic here. This team has sucked for 7 years.
Tom. Yeah. That's what we do on this show. We get fired up, and that's what this show is for. Where's the debate? We welcome it. We welcome the passion. Keep it reasonable. Broncos country, keep it coming. You struck a nerve with Thomas Hall. Why you gotta hate on Shawn Payton, Tom? I don't know.
I don't hate on his coaching. I don't like him as a person. I've said that a million times. I think he's a terrible person. And
he's the best person ever.
Great last year. I mean, let's face it. He lost to the Jets at home, lost to the Raiders twice, and they lost their freaking coach in the middle of the
Uh-oh.
season, and they got beat 70-20. I mean, it
Look
wasn't
what
a
we
great
did.
coaching job either.
Look what we did, Todd. Look what we did. We got him. Lawrence Rivera, tea time with Larry coming in here, calling his shot, our guy. Seattle L, Steelers win. Tampa L, loss against the Jets, beating the Raiders, changing the streak. A win against the Chargers, a win against the Saints, win against the Panthers, lost to those Ravens. That's to be expected. Lost to KC, lost to Atlanta, lost to the Raiders, lost to the Browns, win with the Colts, lost to the Chargers, and 2 back-to-back losses to finish the year with the Bengals and the Chiefs. Man, I think Lawrence is hearing some of your concern, man, and Broncos country shares those concerns, right? I mean, that's my worst case. I was going to ask you your worst case. I'll answer the worst case. You gave me best case, 10-7. I agree with you. No pushback there. 6 wins. Or even a handful, 5 wins. It's absolutely unacceptable. It's the Broncos getting worse as opposed to getting better. They can't even afford to stay the same right now, Tom, as you well know. It's time. It's past time. And David coming back in. Tampa, KC, the Raiders, the Colts, the Chargers, and the Bengals finishing up his prediction in which the Broncos had, what would that be, 6 losses? And that's what we do on the schedule release, right? We try to go through with the little pencil, wins, losses. 12-5 was David's prediction. So he's got those 5 losses against some teams that could sneak up on an upset alert or some absolute dogs that have been in the playoffs before. DTR coming in here. 10-7. Bo Nix outperforms expectations, and a few injuries go our way. Hashtag Bo knows. Nix for 6. New era. It's so funny that you say that, DTR, because I was thinking about it, Tom. Remember the 30 for 30? Perhaps you've seen it about Bo Jackson, and it's called You Don't Know Bo.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I
like
love Bo Jackson.
Right. We all love Bo Jackson, right? Well, I want to be able to say that too to all the haters about Bo Nix, right? I want him to prove Shawn Payton right. I want to be like, you guys don't know Bo right now. Like, he's going to come in here and things are going to be great. They're going to be without trouble, without incident. No, that's not life. We're going to see this young man stumble. We're going to see pick sixes. We're going to see fumbles. We're going to see sacks. We're going to see problems. But you know what I also think we're going to see? I think we're going to see improvements. I think we're going to see wins. I think we're going to see game-changing moments. I think we're going to start to build a connection. I hope we are. I'm not for sure, on this Bo Nix is going to be great, get his jacket ready thing. I didn't have him in my top 3, Tom, as you well know. He wasn't in top 3, he was 3rd, but he's not my top 2 choices, but I am on board, man. I want to see Bo Nix do well. I know you want to see Bo Nix do well. You want to see the Broncos do well. So while I get after Tom for hating on Shawn Payton, I don't know how you guys could call Tom a Shawn Payton hater if he's saying at best 10-7. That means things went right for the Broncos in so many ways. That means that Shawn and Bo are besties. They connected on a subliminal level last fall even, right, when scouts were out there in Oregon. That means things went right. So I love the passion from Broncos country, and I love what you're spitting tonight, Tom. You're getting ornery and you're getting after it.
Well, I mean, if they go 10-7, like I said, there's some things that have happened that are good, but it literally will be one of the best coaching jobs Shawn Payton has done. And I'll be on board Shawn Payton as a coach. If he can turn this team around and go 10-7 next year, awesome. I just don't see it because at the end of the day, talent wins in the NFL. You can be a great coach if you don't have the talent. And we've seen it. The Broncos have not had the talent in order to get over the hump. They just haven't. The talent is just not there. But if he can coach this team to 10-7 with things going right, heck of a coaching job. I'll be the first to admit it that's a heck of a coaching job.
One of my favorite sayings is talent can come from anywhere. And, it wasn't too long ago that this little fat kid from Serbia was drafted to the Denver Nuggets. And now he's, 3 out of 4 years NBA MVP. He's a champion. These things can happen. I'm not saying that this Oregon Duck, this former Auburn cat's going to come in here and just start dominating. But I want to give him that chance. I want to see. I'm willing to be patient for a little while. What's that look like? That's going to be a scale that it's a grading scale as we move each day, each week. I'm going to have to evaluate it. That's just how I'm built. That's where I'm at. And I'm willing to give this kid a shot. Just like Cody Dubs coming in here with a $5 super. Thank you, Cody. Might be some surprise wins in there just because special teams. This needs to be Marvin Mims' turn-up year. Defense is what scares me. I think the offense will do fine. Cody, I'm with you, man. Marvin Mims, what are the new special teams rules, the kickoff rules mean for a guy like Marvin Mims? I'm constantly putting Tom in the driver's chair of, Tom, you're Shawn Payton, react to the schedule. Tom, you're Bo Nix. What defenses are you looking at on the schedule? You're Marvin Mims. Special teams has changed a lot in this offseason. I mean, Cody's right. Here's a guy that was a valuable playmaker that we weren't thinking of at all this time last year when the schedule came out. I mean, Marvin Mims was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and special teams were a significant reason why the Broncos won the games that they did. No doubt. I mean, well, the flub up with the Bills, who, special teams, 12 men on the field, they got that extra kick, kicked it and won the game. But my point is, it's not, I mean, special teams, I want to be good again. Mims has to go to that next step on offense. He's already a good special teams player. We know that. He needs to take the next step on offense. He's got to be that guy, right? They go draft him in the second round. He needs to take that next step and be a real, true difference maker on the offense. And if Mims can be that guy, then you're going to see more offensive prowess and you're going to see more wins come from it because they've got that truly special wide receiver out there that can make plays and change the defense, so to speak, because they don't have that guy, on the wide receiver group right now. They don't have that difference maker who can really change how the defense goes and plays the Broncos.
No, you really only have it on Pat Surtain, really, in all three phases. You look at the offense, you wonder who that playmaker is going to be. You hope it's Marvin Mims. It's him in special teams. Defense, Pat Surtain, it can't be your corner all the time. And Mike coming in here. Great show tonight, Luke and Thomas on MHI and Go Broncos. A very fun and lively show as we finish up some of our reactions real quick to the 2024 Broncos schedule. Let's see here. Phil McLaughlin coming in here. Patrick, Sutton, Mims, Browning, Ellis, Pookie, Bowles, and Knicks go to the Pro Bowl 12-5.
Whoa.
Talk about best case scenario.
That's optimism.
Hall. Man, Bo Nix goes to a Pro Bowl in his rookie year. Javonte Williams has a career resurgence. Garrett Bowles, I mean, holy cow. Look at Baron Browning. Where are we at? I mean, I love it, Phil. Phil's excited about the schedule. That's what I want Broncos country to be. At the end of the day, guys, we're debating Broncos. We're debating football. We're debating something that we love. This is entertainment. Let's leave it here and stay locked on and tuned in to MHI every Wednesday night. You can catch those guys, Broncos for breakfast in the mornings. Tomorrow, the Huddle Up boys will be back, or the Mile High Huddle podcast, rather, and then Dove Valley Deep Divers on Friday. Don't miss my guy, DVA and Ron White on OBV Saturday night. And Tom, away we go, man, with the schedule release. This was a fun show. It's always fun to get after it with you. Missed you last week. Happy to be back in the saddle and ready to talk Broncos football as we march on into minicamp.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this boils down, right? Like we can sit here, you and I, and we can argue with everyone in the chat. But what it comes down to is how good is this team really going to be? I want to see the makeup of it in camp, see how it kind of gels together. Obviously, people, the speculation about Russell Wilson and being a cancer in the locker room, he's gone. Let's see how this new group of people come together and play as a team. That's going to be important. Like I said, not a lot of elite players, but if they can play really well together, and that starts in camp, that camaraderie, they have to build that. I'd like to see how that comes together because that's going to be a telltale sign of whether or not this team, at the end of the final stretch of the season where they can actually come through and get those wins that they need or not. And they didn't do it last year.
We are fixing to find out, as Gary Kubiak once said. Guys, if you want to reach out to Tom, he's at Thomas Hall NFL over on X. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. We appreciate you guys. Broncos country into minicamp. Here we go. This is the way.
This is the way.